Gear 5 Luffy. With the spirit of a warrior and the heart of a child stands a boy who never stops smiling. Monkey D. Luffy may seem like another reckless dreamer, but behind that carefree grin is an unbreakable spirit, a heart that never hesitates, and a will that refuses to bow. From a boy who set sail with nothing but a straw hat and a dream, to a warrior whose name shakes the very pillars of the world, Luffy is on a journey to conquer the seas and claim the title as the Pirate King. But along the journey of becoming king, he rises to the status of a god. Pre-time skip Luffy already proven himself as a force to be reckoned with. At Thriller Bark, Luffy defeated Gecko Moria, a warlord of the sea with the power to shatter cities. Luffy could dodge light-based attacks and is relatively equal to Zoro, who was able to dodge Kuma's pad cannon, which travels at the speed of light, making Luffy faster than light itself. Because of his rubber body, Luffy has the highest endurance on his crew, even better than Zoro, who was able to take all of Luffy's pain on top of the damage he's already received. Kuma presents the pain bubble and states he might even pass out from this one. Being a born buccaneer, Kuma naturally has a higher endurance than any human. Zoro's act of sacrifice to protect his captain's dream created a moment that most would say nothing happened. Then reality of the Grand Line dangers crashed down Luffy and his crew. One by one, his friends were sent away by Kuma's ability disappearing before his eyes. The strength gap between the Straw Hats and the forces of the New World became painfully obvious. It was an agonizing moment for Luffy, realizing he isn't strong enough even with his boundless willpower wasn't enough. But the trials only continue. After learning his brother Ace was captured and sentenced to death, Luffy threw himself into a war that shook the world. Even with Whitebeard's assistance, Luffy could only get so far. And then, just as Ace's freedom was within his grasp, next thing you know, Luffy had to watch his brother's life fade away in his arms. The shattering loss of Ace brought Luffy to his knees, a devastating reminder that he is still far from being strong enough to protect the people he loved. It forced him to confront the harsh reality that resolve alone wasn't enough. He needed power, experience, and mastery to stand at the pinnacle. Luffy was left with nothing but the burning desire to grow stronger. And then, that's when the Dark King Rayleigh offered him a path to real power. A 2-year training period in which Luffy would develop and master the spiritual technique, Haki. Haki was just not a tool, but an extension of his willpower, allowing him to strengthen his attacks, predict the opponent's moves, and impose his dominance on others. He proved his newfound power almost immediately at Fishman Island. With the will of a king, Luffy makes 50,000 fishmen bend the knee, knocking them unconscious with a single burst of Conqueror's Haki. But this was only a fraction of his real power. At Dressrosa, for the first time post-time skip, we witnessed the Straw Hat Captain go all out. Luffy enters the Coliseum in an attempt to win his brother's devil fruit. He is met with Don Chen Jiao, a man who can casually destroy continents. But this doesn't bother Luffy one bit. With just one elephant gun, Luffy defeats the continent killer. But this continental attack is useless when Luffy is faced against the heavily demon Don Quixote Don Flamingo, a warlord whose strength can crush continents and manipulate strings with the precision to slice through entire cities. In the early stages of their clash, even Luffy's Gear 2nd and 3rd attacks failed to put a dent in Doflamingo's monstrous resilience. Gear 2nd is a 10 times boost to Luffy's base, which scales Doflamingo to at least continental with speeds faster than light. With the weight of Dressrosa's hope resting on his shoulders, Luffy draws his final, determined breath. His eyes harden with the stare of an unbreakable resolve. He knows he needs more power. Gear 4, Bounce Man. This is a transformation that can multiply his strength 30-fold. His speed allows him to completely blitz Doflamingo. Luffy's attacks become almost surreal in their impact. His blows don't just bruise, they pulverize. Each strike sends shockwaves crackling through the battlefield, flattening everything in his path. With Gear 4, Luffy delivers a single devastating blow that splits Dressrosa's landscape in two. With the power of the King Kong gun, Luffy banished the heavenly demon back to the depths of the underworld. Next came Whole Cake Island, where Luffy is confronted with Charlotte Katakuri, one of the sweet commanders and a foe who was near perfect in every sense. Katakuri's observational haki allowed him to see seconds into the future. His physical strength overwhelmed even Gear 4, and his speed made Luffy's attacks seem sluggish by comparison. But what makes Luffy dangerous is not just his power, but his ability to adapt. In the heat of battle, with the clock ticking down and his body reaching its limits, Luffy's haki evolved. In mere hours, he developed the ability to see into the future, matching Katakuri's own technique. As the battle raged on, Katakuri's respect for Luffy grew. He declared Luffy as his equal, not in Gear 4, but in his base form. But Luffy wasn't done. In their final act of their 12-hour clash, Luffy activated a new form, Gear 4 Snake Man. This transformation sacrificed some of the raw power of Bounce Man for unparalleled speeds making Luffy massively faster than light, allowing Luffy to blitz Katakuri before he could even see into the future. Snake Man's unpredictable movements left Katakuri struggling to keep up. With every strike, Luffy closed the gap, proving it wasn't just physical power that wins battles, but the indomitable will to push past one's limits. In the end, it was Luffy, standing bloody but unbroken, who remained at his feet. But Luffy still hasn't peaked. In Wano, Luffy is met with the strongest creature alive, Yonko of the Sea, Kaido. This is where Luffy's journey reaches new heights. His first clash with Kaido was brutal. A single devastating strike from the Yonko left a Gear 4 Luffy unconscious. Yet even as he lay defeated, Luffy's spirit refused to fade. Unconscious on the ground, he emitted Conqueror's Haki, a silent declaration that his will was still unbreakable. A mistake that would forever haunt Kaido. He let Luffy live. Thrown in the prison of Udon, Luffy used his captivity not as a time to mourn his defeat, but to grow stronger. He trained relentlessly, learning advanced armament haki, a technique that allows him to project his haki outward, bypassing physical defense and destroying from within. This new power was necessary for the battles that laid ahead. Then, the raid begins. Luffy, along with the worst generation, arrived to the rooftop of Onigashima, ready to send the pirate world into a new era. Face to face with the two Yonkos, Big Mom and Kaido, Luffy completely ignores their presence as he gazed upon his friends, the Akaza 9, beaten and battered. His focus lies solely on the ones he came to protect. It was as if the world had paused, holding his breath, watching a single man walk where no one else would dare. Luffy, without a hesitation in his step, walks right past these two monsters. He dodged Kaido's thunderous assault and retaliated with Red Rock, a devastating strike infused with fire and haki that brought the dragon crashing to the ground. Kaido's resilience was monstrous, and even Luffy's strongest attacks seemed insufficient. It was Zoro, Luffy's right hand, who stepped in with a new technique, cutting Kaido, a feat only performed by one other person. This buys Luffy precious time to learn Kaido's secret that can truly challenge the Yonko. By infusing his attacks with Conqueror's Haki, Luffy can now damage Kaido's hybrid form, an achievement no one else, not even his previous self, can claim. With this newfound strength, Luffy and Kaido's Conquerors clash, splitting the heavens themselves, a feat only reserved for the strongest of the strong, the Yonko of the New World. In that moment, Luffy had ascended to the level of a Yonko. The power Luffy now wielded was enough to shatter islands, reshape countries, and potentially destroy the world itself. Yet even after all of this, Kaido still stood unbroken, a move that seemed almost comical. He became drunk mid-battle, unleashing a chaotic fury that made him even more dangerous. The two warriors locked in a struggle, prepared to bring their conflict to a climax. But fate intervened in the form of a CP0 agent, whose interference left Luffy vulnerable. Kaido's attack landed cleanly, and for the last time, Luffy fell. Silent falls over the battlefield. Luffy, the one who dared to define the Yonko, lies motionless. His allies could only look in horror, their hearts sinking as they witnessed the fall of their captain. But then, something awakens within Luffy. His hair turns white. A brilliant glow surrounds him. His smile widens, radiating a pure, unstoppable joy. A living embodiment of freedom and laughter. Joy Boy is back. Gear 5 Luffy. The awakening of the Hito Hito no Mi mythical model Nika is stated to be the most ridiculous power in the world. In his awakened state, Luffy has become a force in nature, turning the battlefield into a playground where laws of reality are merely options. With a single thought, he transformed the very ground beneath him, turning it into rubber as if the island itself was his weapon, able to pull the ground up and block Kaido's attack. This is the essence of Gear 5, a style that breaks all expectations, filled with unpredictable, almost cartoonish energy that defies logic. Luffy can transform not only the earth, but even living beings, bending them to his will with a free-willing chaos that leaves even Kaido stunned. Luffy can stretch his body, expanding until he becomes a giant. Towering over Kaido, he reaches down, grabbing a mighty dragon, using him as a jump rope, with each swing filling the air with a Nika-like laughter. The more he laughs, the stronger Luffy becomes. His joy fuels him, his laughter transforming to raw strength, his attacks becoming more surreal and unpredictable. Even as the strain of Gear 5 begins to take its toll, Luffy's spirit refuses to fade. When his heartbeat recedes, he simply forces it to start again, ignoring the stamina issue with his newfound power, reigniting the rhythm that fuels his boundless energy, the drums of liberation. With every beat, he surpasses his own limits. Every attack Luffy throws at Kaido is infused in armament and conqueror's haki. His attacks are chaotic, unpredictable, and with each movement showcasing the true freedom of his fighting style. As the fight reaches its climax, Luffy decides it's time to end it all. He unleashes his final and most powerful attack, the Bajring gun. Luffy creates a fist as large as an island and brings the fist crashing down, colliding with Kaido, sending the world's strongest creature to a volcanic death. Egghead Island is a place where science and the future collide. Here we really see the true extent of Gear 5. Luffy is shown to conjure up a pair of cartoonish goggles out of thin air, also able to create a baseball bat out of a nearby tree, and conjures up paint and a baseball helmet. He removes his iconic scar only to place it back on his body. Luffy is bound by no logic, only the bounds of his creativity. Oda himself stated that Luffy's abilities is the entrance to Nika's fantasy, basically a gateway to the endless possibilities of imagination. In Gear 5, he's not just fighting, he's playing, wielding the boundless power of the sun god with the lightheartedness of a child. He's a force of imagination, a living embodiment of freedom, bending reality itself with his laughter. With Kaido being relative to Whitebeard, who is stated to have the power to destroy the world, the One Piece planet being at least 30 times bigger than our Earth, this will scale Luffy planetary to star level with massively faster than light speeds. The path to the king's throne led him to something greater, the light of the sun god, whose laughter echoes throughout the seas. Yo, it's Zazu, and if you enjoyed this video, subscribe, like, hit that notification bell so you never miss a Zazu upload. But let me know in the comments, who do you think is stronger than Gear 5 Luffy? Drop any video suggestions for the next one. Zazu signing out.